can you maybe talk a little bit about why you chose to make this passionate story of obsessive love and set it in a criminal world?
I try to remember. It was from 5 years ago. It's my second film, and I think after my first film, which was black and white, and didn't have much movement in it, or let's say no action, I felt like color, and I wanted to try a few things. Color, I was very afraid of color, so I wanted to shoot in a studio. We created a studio, it was not a cinema studio. And I wanted to film movement, different kinds of movements. So I used, yes, let's say a thriller basic idea and made it into a love story, or the opposite, I forgot. That's what I can remember.
I mean, it's of course a great cinematic tradition to have, you know, a love story mixed in with the gangster killers on the run that are lost but wildly in love. You had great actors in this, and they were young actors. Now we see Juliette Binoche and Denis Levant. And as mature actors, you know, 20-some years later in their career, did that give you a certain freedom? You were all young and working in this genre and making a love story. Was it collaborative effort between you and the actors, because they feel very in tune with your sensibility?
Well, Denis, of course, I'd done the film before with him, and Juliette, it's the first time I was working with her. Yeah, we were all young, and all, you know, in the 20s, 23, 25. And I think it's because in my case I discovered cinema at the same time as I started to make films. I think it's mostly a, you know, kind of a love letter to cinema through a love story in the film, or different love stories in the film. But I think I'm still, you know, paying my debt to cinema, saying thank you, cinema. I'm so glad I found you.
You feel that too, and it's exciting because you kind of push things in the sense that there are a lot of close-ups, and they're big close-ups, really extreme close-ups. And when the movement is movement, it's real movement. Like the film ends with that amazing running scene, and the music swells. And it felt like there was almost experimental things you were dealing with, like cutting out the sound at certain points, and sort of some flash shots in there, and, you know, abstract close-ups, so that we're not quite sure we're seeing light movement. It still has a joy de vivre.
Yeah, I think it's also, I mean, it's someone very important in the film is the director of photography, with whom I made 3 films. This one, the one before, and the one after. And who was a great, I think the best director of photography of his time. And then, so of course, because it's, especially in this film, which has a lot to do with colors and with darkness and with shadows, you know, it was really our film. But there was this joy you're talking about, with this experiment, because that's what cinema is anyway, especially when you're young. You know, when you start to make films, you want to try everything.
Since we don't have a lot of time, let's do some questions from the audience. Sir, the waving hand.
Hi. The colors used in different scenes have a correlation to what's happening in the scene, like the red robe of Anna versus the blue of Alex. And now I'm just wondering, when you develop the characters, do you keep these things in mind as the choice of the colors in the scene, or during the scene, what they're going to be wearing? Do you keep these in mind when you develop the story, or, you know?
I can't remember, but I'm sure I do remember the colors themselves, but so I don't think that was, no, I think that was, you know, each one of my films is very much prepared. There are never any improvisation in my films. That doesn't mean that, you know, we follow a script. It just means I don't rehearse anything, but I prepare everything, like the costumes, the way people walk and talk, and especially in this film where we built everything. Everything you see, almost everything you see, it was decided, it was built, it was painted. So that's as far as I would go as a studio film, let's say, where you decide on all the colors and what everything is going to look like. I never did that again afterwards.
Yes, sir, there.
Yeah, hi. I read somewhere that your real name is Alex, and is that true? Your real name is Alex?
Your real name is Alex.
Yes. Yeah, so I mean, an important point being you casted yourself as the lead character of the film. Was there a reason at that point of time you felt that, you know, probably you're the one who could do justice to that? Also, a couple of other quick questions. The other question is...
You're covering the microphone, sir, or it's gone out.
Check. Yeah. Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Yeah. See, the other question being that he did not love both the girls that he claimed that he really loved in the film. The way I looked at it, he ran away from one, and both of them were chasing him towards the end. I found it very personal to a certain extent. The emotion behind it, the emotion with both the girls in the film, I found it very personal. Probably you don't remember at that point of time, since you're saying like it's been a long time, but the reason that, you know, your real name is Alex and you have casted yourself as a character which is called Alex, and, you know, it's kind of an escapist film to me. Not even like, you know.
The three first films were made with the same actor. My three first films. In each film he's called Alex, although he's a different character, but he's always called Alex. And they're all love stories. They're all boy meets girl stories. And I think in each case, the boy doesn't really know what love is. He knows he needs something. He needs to. He's looking for how do you say it? To fight gravity. He finds he's too heavy, or too, you know, and he wants to escape. And he thinks through the woman he can escape, or they can escape together. So that's the story of the three films in different ways. They're different genres or whatever, but basically they all have that love element. But they're not films with answers, you know. And films, like, I think you don't put any answers, you put questions, fears, and doubts mostly. And so these films, of course, they're personal, as you say, but they have all my fears, my doubt, and my questions about love and about other things.
In the back, sir.
Can you talk about the challenges of the skydiving sequence?
Skydiving sequence. Well, in every film, I try to put. I think in all of my films, there's always one musical scene, at least one musical scene, and one, let's say, action scene or something very physical. It can be water skiing, it can be skydiving, it can be different things. I need it, and I think the actors need it, because some shootings sometimes are very difficult for actors. You know, and when you know that, you know, the 10th week or the 11th week you're going to shoot a dance sequence or an action sequence, you have to rehearse and keep fit, keep physical. So they have to keep physical and ready. And even if the shooting is difficult inside their brain, they also have this healthy thing, body, to keep the body fit. So the skydiving was like that. And whatever I ask the actors, I do myself. So we all went, you know, to learn that, and it's after that, it's not especially difficult to do. I mean, to shoot such a scene.
Right there. Just yeah.
How important was the Haley comet in the film script? Why did you put it there?
I guess he's talking about as a metaphor, the Haley comet.
Yeah. How important was that? And secondly, I found a similarity between the last shot of the movie where the girl is running and the scene in which there's David Bowie playing in the background and the Alex character is running. Was it depicting that the girl has finally fallen in love with her and was running, or was it something different?
So the Haley comet, if I remember, it was the year of the Holy Comet that we shot. So I was interested in that, and also because the film is with all these colors, etc. I wanted, you know, I was a bit inspired by Tintin. I don't know how you call him here, Tintin, Tintin. Tintin, you know the character? Yeah. So there's a Tintin where there's I forgot which comet is burning, is in the sky. L'étoile mystérieuse in French, the mysterious star. And people walk and the sidewalks are melting. So I decided to set the film in this kind of apocalyptic heat, and because it went also with this sickness they talk about. It's like an end of the world thing. And the other question was?
Last question.
Oh yes.
Between the two sequences.
Yeah, that's how I see love, you know, running, whether it's towards someone or escaping the feeling, because that's how I see it. So he does it once with the song, and she does it at the end when he's dead. I can't say more. That's why I should never do Q&As. I should do Q&Qs.
Thank you. This film also, like your next film, the triangle is the young guy, the girl, and the older guy. It's the older guy who sort of threatens the young guy's chance. Any thoughts on that as a theme? Is that personal?
I was asked that, and I really don't know.
A chance to work with some great older actors, for one thing.
Yeah. From my first film, when I was very young, when I made my first film, I realized already I had every age in the film. You know, I had babies and I had an old lady, and I think I've always wanted to film everybody, every age or every stage of life.
Last question, I guess we're getting booted.
Your dialogues, though they are poetic, they look more like something from a bookish rather than realistic. Like no one dying would philosophize so much. You would be aware of more of a pain, and so it looked a bit unreal and bookish. Though they are poetic.
Did that bother you? Did it bother you that it looked unreal? That it sounded unreal? Yeah.
On deathbed, something philosophized in bed, or people in bed talking more about relation than doing something.
I think, in this film, if I remember, especially only in this film actually, it's very written. Usually in these films, these three films, the first ones, the main character, Alex, is mostly silent, and sometimes suddenly he talks a lot. And usually it's at night. So there's one big scene at night in the first film, and there's one big one in this film between him and Juliette Binoche, where suddenly he talks, and sometimes he talks like a book. Yeah, he talks like that's how I made him this character. I don't know why.
Shakespeare as well.
I forgot.
A couple of the gangsters are talking Shakespeare, right?
I forgot.
Yeah. I guess that's it. Please come back and see Love is on the Bridge tomorrow, same time.
Thank you.